go. Right. Yeah, that's right. We're in action. Given that it's just gone 6 o'clock, I'll declare the meeting open and welcome the members of the public to our Finance Policy and Legislation Committee. I'll just acknowledge the Whadjuk people as the traditional owners of the greater Fremantle-Walyalup area, and we recognise that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important today. We have apologies from the Mayor, from Councillor Moughlin and from Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Jones is standing in for Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Lorber, sorry. Councillor Lorber is standing in for Councillor Moughlin. Do we have any disclosures of interest from the members? No. Councillor Jones.
Yes, I'd like to declare an interest in items 2211.5 and 2211.12, both concern the North Fremantle Bolo. My daughter Julia Jones and my son-in-law Dylan Smith are involved in the project and in the lease negotiations. I haven't taken any part in that, so it's an impartiality interest. I will remain in the room and vote.
Thank you. Responses to previous questions taken on notice, we have none. So we now move to public question time. We have 2 people who have registered to speak. Are there any others who have wished to speak at the meeting, just so I know? No, just the 2. Okay, so first is David Davenport. Would you like to come? We do ask you to come to the podium so that we can use the speaker as the session is live streamed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, I'm David Davenport. I'm the current president of Fremantle Cricket Club. I'm a volunteer and I've been a committee member for the last 10 years and have been at the club for about 14 years, watching countless hours of cricket on the grass at Stevens, often also with our late dog Sammy sitting alongside. With me is Grant Edgar and Peter Wilkinson and Chelsea Fell, who are also part of our club. Grant's been here at the club for 50 years, off and on, firstly as a player and now as a vice president. I just wanted to really talk a little bit about the club because I think over the last 10 years, the people in Fremantle have largely forgotten about the local role, the important role that the club plays both locally and with West Australian and international cricket communities as well. We are a feeder club to the WACA, and at the moment we only have men's teams, but as you probably would be aware, we're trying to get women's teams as well, and we'll have that ability once we've upgraded our facilities. One of our primary roles is to produce state and international cricketers, and as volunteers and with limited professional assistance, our job is to take the best aspiring 12-year-olds from community cricket clubs and coach them, hopefully, to reach the highest level possible, including playing for their country. And we've been quite successful over the years. We've got 3 players in the winning Scorchers team from last year, and these players are all and have learnt their craft on Stevens Reserve as Fremantle juniors. One of them, Mitch Morris, played a major role in the World Cup's first ever win for Australia. So we're proud of that. We've also got the current captain of the Western Warriors coming from the club, and so we have six players. I'm sure we've spoken about this a few times, and hopefully in a few years' time, hopefully we can have some female players amongst that list. In order for our club to survive and to attract the best players, we need to have a reputation for good wickets, and we need to have good practice wickets and a safe outfield. Why is this important? It's because the bowler bowls at speeds of up to 150 kilometres an hour, and for this to happen safely without injury to batsman, bowler or fielder, our standards have to be the highest. The run-up for the bowler has to be smooth and consistent, and for the batsman, the wicket needs to be hard and predictable. For the fielder, the ball mustn't just bounce in the hole and hit the ground and deviate and hit the player in a place he's not expecting. That's just what we need for a safe game, and that's what the whacker expects us to provide. And to achieve this result, it involves hours and hours of work each week working on machinery around the grounds, which is why we have that curator working tirelessly all the time. Importantly, Stevens Reserve is also the curator's workplace, and it's the responsibility of both the council, ourselves, the cricket club and the hockey clubs to provide that working environment for the curator. As the number of dogs continue to increase, I'm just worried that the sheer number running around the machinery will eventually result in an accident, unless we consider some sort of means to address that whilst the curator is working. And as I say, he has recently been assaulted while sitting on the roller and within the cricket nets. No employee should have to be subjected to that. So one of the problems is we have people taking exception to being reminded of the rules by the curator, and sometimes he might seem abrupt. However, please feel for him. His day may already have been wrecked by equipment failure or a reticulation problem, which happened this week, or another dog owner not following the rules, or just simply having to pick up many bags of dog poo before, in the early hours of the morning. So whilst I understand that the discussions today are all about the dogs and allowing dogs off leash, I would just like to say again that it's only happened in the last 10 years that that's been allowed to happen. In times past, Grant Edgar, who's in the room, he says that there were exercise groups. Bocce was regularly played by a group of Italians. There were school carnivals, boxing groups, picnics, and running groups. And as the dogs off the lead process came around, obviously it saw these groups of users disappear from the reserve because it obviously was hard for them to carry on their activities. I don't really want to talk about Virginia Park specifically because that's something that is the council looking for options. But we do actually believe strongly that the council need to find an alternate dog lead area to Stevens Reserve. We've always asked for this ever since we found that dogs were off the lead. If it's possible to find a new road bike track down the road, maybe it's also possible to find somewhere else for the dog owners as well. Surely they deserve their own purpose-built space so they can, rather than continually trying to coexist with a Premier League cricket club, or otherwise we have to find a way that we can get them to just respect what we need to do. I say that again because we're not against dogs. Many of us have them and love them. We're finding it hard to manage our own club. We do know that since the gates were installed, which I think was about 5 or 6 years ago, that we've had a large increase in damage and the breaking of our rules or the rules of the park, which leads to more dogs running on our wickets, more digging, more holes, less attentiveness, and more doggy poo and things like that. And that just increases the volunteers' workload. Sorry, I won't be long. I'll try and be. So why is this happening to us? It's because there are just more dogs. It's due to change habits, unfortunately, and I don't really understand, but I just sorry, I've lost my place. What I'm really trying to say is it just takes one dog to spoil a wicket or one dog to run on our rain covers, rip them with his paw, which means water leaks through into the day, into the clay and making the wicket soft and dangerous. So closed gates effectively mean dogs can roam freely and go where they like without being controlled. It allows the dog owner to otherwise be distracted or chat in large groups or look at their phone whilst the dogs roam freely and do as they like. This is great for dog owners, but simply doesn't work as a Premier League facility. We're a club mostly of volunteers, and it's hard to get people to volunteer in the first place, let alone with an increased workload.
We might ask you to wrap up in a moment if you could, because we usually only allow 3 minutes.
Sorry. Okay. I guess there are the nearby clubs like South Perth and Perth haven't got gates on them, and they don't have these same problems. Lastly, how do we improve our relationship with the dog owners? Surely we would welcome discussions. How can we help understand and care our needs? We're a bunch of volunteers, and how do we get dog owners to respect the wicket covers and things like this? We have to do the job. We're charged by the whacker, and we would love to, like find a way that to work with the dog owners that actually love and respect the place to educate the ones that don't, and hopefully we can actually turn it around. Um, anyway,
We might leave it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I did allow David to speak a bit longer because he is the only person speaking on behalf of the club, and so I just felt that it was reasonable. Sorry, we now have Daphne Anderson.
Okay, my name is Daphne Anderson. I'm a Whitegum Valley resident and a Fremantle ratepayer, and I wanted to talk on the same topic, the Virginia Ryan and Stevens Reserve Community Consultation and Dog Management. As was detailed in the agenda item, the public consultation undertaken was a requirement under the Dog Act 1976. In relation to Stevens Reserve, the report notes that a significant majority of participants do not want any changes to occur at Stevens Reserve, in particular to fencing or removal of fencing. Despite this, there is a recommendation to the committee that a significant amount of ratepayers' money, $63,000 I think it is, be allocated to make changes to the southern entry points to Stevens Reserve to create a chicane-style entry point that would encourage dog owners to be more accountable for their pets and for some other purposes. It doesn't include the fencing that would be required to make the Virginia Ryan Park a secure dog exercise area, which was the primary focus of the consultation, I think. It raises a number of questions for me in relation to the use of ratepayers' money. I think the previous speakers spoken a lot about the benefit to cricket for having a facility such as this, but I'm more focused on looking at the benefit to Fremantle and Fremantle residents. So my first question is, what percentage of the members of the sporting clubs who use Stevens Reserve are residents or ratepayers of Fremantle? My second question is, what benefits do the sporting clubs provide to Fremantle and Fremantle residents, and in particular, what do the sporting clubs who use Stevens Reserve pay to the council for the use of the A-class reserve? What evidence is there that a chicane-style entry encourages dog owners to be more accountable for their pets? And it seems to be contrary to the legislative intention under the Dog Act to require consultation in relation to policy decisions relating to dog exercise areas, and then to completely ignore the views of the community without any justification. So my last question is, what justification is there for apparently prioritising the wishes of the sports clubs over the wishes of the residents who responded to the survey? And I'm, like the previous speaker, I'm interested in trying to find a way in which people can be, both groups can be accommodated. In my view, the majority of the people who are dog walkers do use the park responsibly. My dogs don't go on the wicket. I do pick up after dogs and many other dogs. And I think that it seems to have become a very confrontationalist approach by the cricket club or by the sports clubs in relation to users of the park, the dog owners. And I think that it's also an extremely important community facility in relation to dogs. I've moved to the Whitegum Valley not long ago, and a large part of my social contact has been through that park and through the contacts that I've made and the friendships that I've made with other dog walkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. We will just take those questions on notice and provide the answers at the next meeting. And I'll also mention that this item on Stevens Reserve and Virginia Ryan Park, we will make a recommendation this evening, but that will go on to council in 2 weeks' time. So it won't be a determination tonight. I also have a letter here from Dimity Walker, who couldn't be here this evening because she is unwell, but she wishes to express her opposition to the recommendation on the agenda that removes the gates at Stevens Reserve and replaces them with chicane-style barriers. So I will ensure that this information gets included in the discussion. And I also have an email from Julie Murphy on the same issue. She was one of 233 respondents to the City of Fremantle survey. This email has been circulated to all elected members, so rather than me reading it out this evening, I will leave it for elected members to have read. So that's included too. So are there no other people who wish to speak this evening? No, so I'll close public question time. We'll just do a couple of bits of housekeeping, and then we will bring forward the issue that people have spoken on. Petitions, I don't believe there are any. Deputations, there are none. Confirmation of the minutes. I'll move the minutes of the Finance, Policy, Operations and Legislation Committee dated 12th of October. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kamada. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Elected member communication. Is there any from the elected members? No, I just wanted to, excuse me, make a comment that in the, excuse me, in the library annual report, we have our library winning a state library award for Minecraft that was which they carried out over the last 12 months. Yeah. So they won that award. The year before, they won another award for Library Connect. We have had our council win how many awards in the last 3 or 4 weeks? 4, I think it is. Yeah, 4 for our building. So I just wanted to put it on record that I feel like the council is doing a pretty amazing job, and I just wanted to congratulate the staff because they're the ones who put in a lot of the hard work behind all these things, and I think it's a pretty amazing effort. So thank you. Okay. We'll now move on. So providing everyone's happy, I'll bring forward the item FPOL 221110, Virginia Ryan Park and Stevens Reserve Community Consultation and Dog Management. And in doing that, I'll note that this is only a recommendation to our council. So whatever comes out of tonight's discussion will go on to the council. So I'll move that item as it is printed. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Vucic. Sorry, I'm really bad with names and always have been, and so please forgive me for that. Councillor Vucic. All those in favour? Sorry, I'll open for the discussion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Kamada.
Thank you. Look, this is a situation that has developed, as Mr. Davenport said, over a number of years now. It's something that whatever decisions we make, there are going to be consequences. And some people will not be happy with whichever way we go in future. However, I believe that if we concentrate both on short and long-term solutions, we can arrive at a much better position than where we are currently. We need to consider, for example, if we do make changes to Virginia Ryan, that will have consequences on the people that use it currently. Stephen Street, for me, is a cricket ground first and foremost. The preparation of the wickets is more delicate than the preparation you need for other ovals that are used for example, soccer and football. Obviously, they need pristine fields, but not to the same level as a wicket. And it is important when you're playing at the highest level that we consider that. And the Fremantle Cricket Club is very important to the city of Fremantle. It's iconic, and it's something that we need to really consider. I think they've been around since 1860 something or something like that. I mean, I can stand corrected on that particular point. But we need to make sure that through this process, we're looking at an alternative for the dog walkers that currently use Stephen Street. So Virginia Ryan is not a big area, so in the short term that might well help to alleviate the problem. Dog numbers are increasing all the time, so we have to have a good look around Fremantle and find other venues that can be fenced off and that people can. I mean, I went down this morning and had a look, and there was 20 to 30 dogs down there, and you can see the dogs having a ball. You can see why that's a popular area to walk your dogs, because you can let them off and they can run rampant. Unfortunately, though, it's a cricket ground, and we're going to have to come up with. It's great to hear both speakers today talk about working together. So we need to come up with some rules that satisfy both in the short term, and in the longer term, create other opportunities for people to walk their dogs in other areas. So I'll be supporting this recommendation at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones?
I've got a couple of questions, please. I just like to better understand how a place gets designated as dog on lead and dog off lead. Is that take time, or is that entirely up to the council to change that and to make it seasonal? I thought we had to go through some gazetting process, or could you just explain the background to that, and then I might make a comment.
Yep, through the chair, Bryn, essentially the council can stipulate a dog exercise area in policy. It doesn't have to be legislated through our local law. So that's the process that we're doing tonight. We will have to go out, submit a local public notice for that, which will be a 28-day period before it actually comes into effect. So that's it, basically.
So more particularly, if you want to designate it as a dog on lead area for the 3 months of the cricket season, let's say, or whatever, 6 months, or the days that cricket's being played, is that something we can just do on a day-by-day basis, or does that still have to go through that process?
We would have to do that in the policy.
Well, what I'm leading to is, if we wanted to make it a more general dog off-lead prohibited more generally, how long would that take? If we had say 6 months of the year on-lead, off-lead was totally prohibited, how long would that process take?
You could do it through the policy now, and we would have to just make sure that we put it in the local public notice that it's going to be that, and it would have to give a 28-day period, that's all. So it would have to be done in the policy. It has to be adopted by absolute majority and go to council through that process.
So I think the real problem here is that no matter how well-meaning most dog owners are, if there are 100 dog owners and 2 of them are stupid, that's the problem. And it doesn't matter how much negotiation you do and how much discussion you do and how many notice. I was particularly concerned to hear of a dog running onto the pitch during a game. I mean, imagine you're running to take an important catch in a game and find there's a dog going for the same ball. That must be brilliant. And if you can't trust people to be sensible enough to keep their dog on a lead when they're watching the cricket game, I just wonder whether there's any solution that's not prohibition. And I don't want to move that way, but I think we spent a long time trying to find a solution, and we'll still have the 1 or 2 people that will still cause the problem. And the problem's just as bad if it's only 2 people causing it. It's not like most problems get worse if more people disregard the rules, but this problem is just as bad if only 1 or 2 people disregard the rules. So, I'm kind of in favour of a more draconian result, personally.
Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. Councillor Norvin.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited about this item because of especially part 3, where we're going to look at a citywide strategy and how we can provide spaces that work for everybody. I think that's a really good thing, and not too bothered by the chicanes and the way that will present itself to accessing the Stevens Reserve. And when I first got my little pup, Stevens Reserve was a favorite spot to go and run around, and he had a ball meeting everybody. And still to this day, he is fearless. And if I'm walking him, he'll sit down if he sees someone coming because he just wants to meet them. So it was a very good way to socialize our dog, and he's super friendly. And a lot of that is because of the interactions that he had at Stevens Reserve. And if this space wasn't I don't know how to say this, I guess. I mean, there's dog agility equipment right next to the cricket grounds. So it's kind of a big clue for people to bring their pets there right now, because there is this infrastructure that was put in. And while I appreciate that, there are some challenges that come with having a shared space like that, and I'm supportive of us looking at all these things. I think it would also be very helpful if, especially in protection of the wickets, because when I was there, my dog couldn't read the sign that said "No dogs allowed" on the wicket, and being a young pup, he would run, everywhere. And one time he did cut across the wicket, and put him on the lead and took him home. But if there was a way that those could be better protected, because that is a very sensitive area, that could also be a step in potentially the direction of this space remaining a shared space for everybody. Um, and also posting the times of the cricket matches and things when, as Councillor Jones mentioned, when these matches are on, and when just letting people know during this time you can't have your dog here. I mean, people are mostly pretty responsive to that, but there wasn't anything that I saw when I was there as to when we could or couldn't. In fact, I would drive home from work, kind of drive past the grounds and see if there were people on the field, and to know whether or not I could bring my dog back. So just having that information up front, I think, would go a long ways also to solving a lot of these problems. But yeah, so I'm totally supportive of this where we're going with this and looking at a broader strategy. But it is a great space, and I think that having people being able to access it is important. But it's also important to support our clubs, and hopefully we can all kind of work towards the middle and find a solution that takes care of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bucci.
I did. Okay. I think Councillor Kamada and Norva have, spoken well on the issue. I think it's still primarily a sporting club, and it ought to be given some priority. But I would support very much that we look at all other options in terms of a compromise. So I'll be voting for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton.
Thanks. Look, I apologise to the cricket club in lots of ways as well, because I know that we've been talking about this for a long time and trying out different solutions and that sort of stuff. And I mean, I'm a dog walker up there as well. I take my dog there, and it's a lovely space to be able to use. And yes, most people are responsible, but unfortunately some ruin it for the rest of us. And I really worry that we're leading to, if we don't do something to address the problem, we're going to lose this as a dog off-lead area in total, and I would be really sad if that happened. So I guess I'm supporting the motion as it's currently put, and specifically with regards to the chicanes, in the sense that we did remove the gates for a short period of time, and there was an improvement in the way that the dogs were managed and so on in the space. And if we need to do that in order to make people a bit more attentive, that's the case. I also note that I think one of the reasons that this park is so heavily used by dog owners is because it's one of the few dog off-lead areas that is fenced, and so therefore people feel like they have that safety and security and so on. So a couple of things in that. I mean, Fremantle Park is an equally beautiful reserve, well-kept reserve, and if we put a fence around that, would dog owners use that instead of Stevens Reserve, or at least, half of the people using that and then half of the people using Stevens Reserve, which of course then lessens the overall impact in terms of the number of people and dogs that are using it in the other times. And on that note, I have just forwarded to Agenda and Minutes and the Chair a potential amendment that was about the Knutsford Reserve dog area. I note and thank from the officers the information about potentially fencing this park, which is already a dog off-lead area, so it doesn't require the same kind of consultation and process and so on. It is a dog off-lead area. It's not used by people with dogs that much, but if we were to put a fence around the two sides so that effectively the whole entire square was fenced, I do think that that provides a good alternative and a place that's nearby within walking distance for people to go, particularly when the sporting activities are on and they're not able to take the dog there. It's not a big space in the same way that Fremantle Park or Stevens Reserve or even Bruce Lee Oval is, and so on, but it might actually help alleviate some of the issues that we're having. And I think it also goes towards that wider strategic issue of looking at, how we can provide a variety of dog exercise areas that meet the community's needs, and noting the increase in that. So before I move that, I just wanted to also talk about the Virginia Ryan Park. And I have a friend who, I guess I should, maybe that's an interest that I should declare, but I have a friend who lives adjacent to Virginia Ryan Park, literally on the corner and where the little pathway goes through, and so on. And I think that using that as a dog off lead area in a kind of low impact way is a reasonable outcome. But I think, turning it into a fully fenced enclosed place that inherently kind of invites lots and lots of dog owners and that sort of thing there would definitely be problematic. But I think, and people with dogs already do use the park a bit, and I think a bit of that informal use is all right. And then again, thinking that between these three areas, we actually have a little strand of places where people can go, and it's all within walking distance of Stevens Reserve, and hopefully will take some of that pressure off. So I would like to move an amendment to added point 5, which is just around saying request staff to install a fence around the Knutsford Reserve, and noting that the officers have provided some information that the approximate fence cost of that fence would be $11,000 thereabouts, with 2 gates. So well within the budget that we've allocated towards addressing this problem, and I think at the moment it would provide a really good short-term solution while we look at the longer-term solutions and more expensive solutions.
Councillor Lorver. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Councillor Lorver?
Oh, I think this is a great idea, and thank you for putting it forward, Councillor Pemberton. It struck me that Virginia Ryan Park a fence would really detract from that area, and this other space being a already designated dog off lead, I think anything we can do to, like you mentioned, take the pressure off of Stevens Reserve is something worth pursuing, and I think it's great. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion? I just wanted to make a couple of comments on this, because I would prefer this to be something that got raised in part, as part of part 3 when we do the work to look at other options, only because I'm aware that I did ask the manager of parks a day or two ago, just trying to pull up the email, on this, because Councillor Pemberton had flagged that she was considering this, and it is the case that the sporting clubs are proposing to utilise that space in the future. I don't know whether
you're talking about Stevens Reserve. This is not Stevens
Oh,
Reserve.
sorry. I'm sorry. I've got the wrong thing. Yes, I just assumed it was the same.
No, down the road.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Request staff install a fence around the Knutsford Street Reserve. Look, yes, no, I know we have discussed this as part of the workshops we've dealt with in the past. As this is going on to council, I'm happy for this to be supported, and then we can discuss it over the next 2 weeks. And then if it does come out that it's supported, then I'm happy to go ahead with it. Yeah. So all those in favour of the amendment? So that's unanimous. Thank you. Now, is there any further discussion on the item as a whole, including the amendment? No, then I'll put the whole motion. All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Pemberton, I wasn't paying enough attention. Okay, so that item is a recommendation to council, and it'll get discussed in 2 weeks from today. So, Pip, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. You're welcome to leave if you'd like to. Was there another item that people here? The other three people here, you're here for all here for the Bolo item? Are you all here for the Bolo item? Okay. Well, we we might do. Well, we can do the football club. Item 4. FPOL 2211 item 4, which is the proposed lease for the Fremantle Football Club. I will move the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Kamara. Would you like to second that? Thank you. I'm aware that Councillor Pemberton has an amendment, but is there any discussion? Otherwise, I'll ask Councillor Pemberton to move the amendment. No? Councillor Pemberton, did you wish to move your amendment? Thank you. Councillor Pemberton has moved it, seconded by Councillor Jones. Did you wish to speak to it?
All I'll say is that this is in line with the way that we've been talking about handling our in-kind support for community organisations and not-for-profits, and I would hope that this was applied consistently throughout, so there's a nice even kind of spread of that, but noting that you know, we're waiving the rent on this one as well as, well, actually, sorry, the rent on this one, and so therefore that is a significant contribution that should be acknowledged.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'll then put the motion. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Sorry, yes, the motion as amended. Sorry, we approved the amendment. All those in favour of the motion as amended? 2 amendments? No. It's only one. Yeah, Councillor Pemberton's been consistent. No, we're only dealing with the football club. Yep. So that is carried. No, we've just amended it. Yes. So we'll now move the motion as amended. All those in favour?
Can we speak to it?
I thought I'd asked if people wanted to speak.
Look, I will support this, but I do have some reservations, and it is solely on how we justify, you know, rent waivers and giving peppercorn leases and so on. It seems that we have a pretty ad hoc, sporadic kind of approach to it, and a bit like the sponsorship issue in itself, I would like to see some clarity around, you know, a policy or a process or a set of terms. You know, we've got a very vague reference to capital investment. We also have a mention of the requirement of the city to do the general maintenance as well as some of the improvements and that sort of thing. And so, you know, getting a clear picture of under what grounds we do charge a peppercorn lease, or should we be charging it doing a peppercorn lease for absolutely all of the not-for-profit organisations that lease our community facilities.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item as amended? Okay, all those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. So we'll now do FPOL 2211-5, which is the lease for the North Fremantle Bowling Club. So I'll move the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Jones. And again, Councillor Pemberton has an amendment. Yes, Councillor Pemberton has moved her amendment, seconded by Councillor Jones. Any discussion on the amendment?
I'll briefly make a comment. I just think, yeah, it makes sense, and it brings things into line with what we've done with South Fremantle Footy Club and other clubs. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Now, the motion as amended, is there any further discussion? Councillor Lorver.
Yeah, I'm a huge supporter of our non-for-profit clubs around the city, and I think it's great that we're doing all that we can to ensure that they're adding to our community, because they are kind of interwoven in the fabric. All the many different clubs, I don't think we could, be a member of them all if we tried, because there's so many. This was a an issue that was brought before us earlier, and we were told that there was going to be some capital investment that the city would have to make into this in order to bring the building up to a certain standard. And I'm all for doing that, because I think that's important that we bring these clubs up to a certain standard. But in line with Councillor Pemberton's earlier comments about applying some consistency to this, is there any intention to look at other clubs and other buildings that the city has and bring them up to the same standard, or is it just because this lease was up, we're just going to do it for this one?
I'll pass that on to the Director of City Business.
Through the chair, in this particular instance, the previous lease came to an end, and we assessed the building and determined there was some compliance works required before we could release the building, and that's the basis of the investment for this particular lease.
There was some reports in the media that when the previous lessees had, realized they were not going to be occupying the premises, that several items may have gone missing, or there were some reports that is any of this as a result of behaviors that may have been as reported in the media in that way?
No, this is just base compliance works for the building.
Councillor Pemberton.
Just in terms of process, Councillor Jones just pointed out that actually, as it's provided in the additional documents, I actually had two separate amendments, and that it's not really possible to bundle them up into one amendment, motion, and decision and vote.
Would you like us to move each one separately? I'm happy to do it one way or the other.
Well, we didn't explicitly.
No, I thought it was clarified that they would include the KPI.
Yeah, and I did ask. So that was done as one amendment rather than broken up as two, as it's printed in.
Okay. Well, we'll do just the one, and then we'll do the next. Yep. Okay. So, is there any further discussion on the First Amendment?
I think we've done the First Amendment,
yes,
but we just need to sign off on the second one.
Yeah. Sorry. Right. Yes, because we were discussing the motion then, weren't we? Okay. So, Councillor Pemberton, would you like to move your Second Amendment?
Yes.
Councillor Pemberton has moved it, seconded by Councillor Kamada. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favour? That is unanimous. So we now go to the motion as a whole, which now has two amendments included. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. So that's the bowling club lease. So we might now go back to the beginning of the agenda. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Are there any items that councillors wish to speak on, apart from those that might have amendments, such as seasonal trading, the Oval, and 12, number 2? Okay. Are there any others? Councillor Vucic, number 12. Okay. Yeah. Which ones? I should have marked it. Which ones I've got? some don't. Do only have an absolute majority attached? No. No, that's what I was checking for.
No, it's for 6, we're just referring through to council for
Yeah.
determination.
Okay.
Sorry, not. And I just had a question on number 7.
So we can include 6. Did anybody wish to speak on item 6? No. So we can include that, yeah?
Yeah, you can push 8 through if you wanted to, with just a referral to council with separate committee.
We'll do it separate. Yeah, we'll just, I think someone's asked for that. So, okay, so we can do item FPOL 2211, 6, 9 and 11. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Pemberton. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We'll now move item 2, seconded by Councillor Jones. Would you like to second that? Thank you. Is there any discussion on this one? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, look, I just pulled this because I just wanted to say how impressed I am. Like, this is an amazingly good update and lots and lots of good news in it. And I particularly like the fact that there is a lot happening with, you know, bringing people in for events and using the space after hours and all of that sort of stuff that, you know, we wanted as an outcome from creating this building and so on. So I just wanted to say well done to the whole library team. It's really outstanding and I hope they maintain it.
Thank you. That was very well put. Is there any further discussion on this item? Then I'll move. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move item 3, statement of investments. Second, additional. Yeah. 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 Statement of investments. There's an additional officer comment.
Did we not amend this to? No. The statement of investments for compliance, where it had to come through you and me for sign off for $1 million.
Yep.
I didn't leave it as an amendment, so why put it in there? Doesn't matter.
Leave it. Okay. Sorry, we're just going to just clarifying something. Sorry, did I get a seconder for that one? Seconded by Councillor Pemberton. Any discussion? All in favour? So all those in favour? Yes.
Can I just say something?
Oh, sorry.
It's a bit like
Councillor Vucic.
Yeah. Look, I've got to say that kudos for reporting the non-compliance. I think it was the right thing to do. I've had a discussion with Ms. Lamb over the matter, and I just would like to say that things could have been done better, but it was very quick to be able to be transparent, and that there have been controls put into place. And I'd just like to ask a question regarding the additional. Gosh, I've just lost it. Wait a sec. Yeah. So what does the last paragraph mean? The following will require the CEO director for approval. So in addition, will it come back to council, or is this giving an authority to the CEO or a director to give to be able to invest $3 million?
Pass it over to the Director of City Business.
Through the chair, this is still in line with what the existing policy allows under delegation, but we're just adding an additional control in the process to ensure we are adhering to the policy. And what that control is that we're just monitoring any investments that are made for longer than a 3-month period, or any investments over $1 million require director approval. And in the absence of the director, will be the CEO.
And just out of interest, the green investment for the Southern Cross Credit Society, what were the credentials and the criteria for the green investment?
Through the chair, that was a tier 4 investment.
Just wanted to know what type of green investment project.
I'd have to take that question on notice.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that item? Councillor Lawver?
Just a quick question. Is there only one director that could make these approvals, or could any director? And if it's only one, would it be wise to specify which one?
Through the chair, it's intended that that's the Director of City Business. Yep, we can in our internal procedure use those exact words.
Okay, is there any further discussion? No? Well, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Now do item 7, FPOL 2211-7, which is seasonal trading policy. I'll move the officer's recommendation, and doing so, note that there's also a proposed amendment by Councillor Pemberton. So, and is there a seconder to the officer's recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Lawver. Yeah. Okay, so is there any discussion on the motion as it is? Councillor Lawver.
Yeah, I think this is a great policy, and hopefully will provide some really interesting offerings around Fremantle. On the fees, it just kind of struck me this morning, so I apologize for not sending it through before. Sorry. Yeah, I must have swallowed a fly. Would it the $1,500 fee for the license? That's a flat fee. So anytime we want to adjust that, will we have to actually vote to adjust that? Because I was thinking it might be better to tie it to like the minimum rates or something, so that was automatically adjusted whenever those are done. So that way, just it goes up as things go up.
I'll pass that to the Director of City Business.
Through the chair, I believe we've used the words up to $1,500. So if we wanted to prorata that rate over a shorter period of time, we would have the ability to change that fee without coming back to council. If we did go over that fee, we possibly would have to come back and amend that.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Just a question. How does the I'm thinking ahead to the amendment rather than this. How does the description of North and South Bathers Beach affect activities in the water, and how far off in the water would they have to be? Would they still be covered by this policy? I'm thinking of the thing that was there a few years ago with the things that fire water out, right in the air. And I did see a rumour of something coming back in the water. But,
through the chair, the policy relates to the commercial trading activity that occurs on the land. So the transaction, the commercial transaction and where that occurs, that's what the policy is trying to deal with. That may relate to activity that occurs on the water.
If you were renting out boats, for example, you'd take the money in the area, the boat could go wherever the licence says. Yeah, okay.
Is there any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll pass it over to Councillor Pemberton. Moved by Councillor Pemberton, seconded by Councillor Jones. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Can I just speak to it briefly? Overall, I do think this policy is going to be really helpful and so on. And I also like the fact that you've identified areas that don't take away parking, existing parking that is A, needed, and B, revenue raising for us. With regard to the Bathers Bay amendment that I've proposed, I guess I just feel quite strongly that, you often see people kind of sunbathing and reading books and, it's like tropical island kind of treatment of the northern end of Bathers Bay, whereas at Bathers Beach, whereas this section down near the boardwalk and with Bathers Beach House and so on is a lot more activity, and it feels like it's a great location to put in those attractors. I mean, I imagine particularly things like stand-up paddle boards and various water activities being there, and I guess it's sort of more visible, more connected to the commercial kind of precinct around there, and just leaving, the roundhouse kind of side to be more passive recreation.
I'm very supportive of this amendment. I quite like that northern end of the beach being nice and quiet. So, is there any further discussion? Councillor Jones?
Well, just being very picky for a minute, I'm just thinking, is there a kind of operation which would need to have some of their stuff on the beach for launching purposes, and how would that be affected by this? I mean, can they sell the ticket during in this area that still have the paddleboard, the kayak, or the pedalo, or whatever it is, just on the southern end of the beach?
Through the chair, it would be difficult for an operator who requires a trailer or something to be on the beach to operate from this location. However, if they were able to find a way to transport whatever they needed down onto the beach, it could still be suitable.
Would something like it? I mean, I kind of imagined maybe like a shipping container gets installed there, and it's full of all the equipment and stuff. And each day they just open the doors and pull the stuff out and so on, and they pack it back away. But I do recognise that. I mean, getting to either of the proposed locations suggested for Bathers Beach is going to be a bit tricky. But is that sort of what you were imagining, or were you imagining more of a kind of temporary marquee, and that gets packed up and brought here each day?
Ideally, it's a mobile vehicle, like a trailer or a car that can just set up and be removed easily. But part of the intent of this policy is also to enable the more semi-permanent, more static things like a shipping container. So if an operator was to say be able to even crane a container in for a 3-month period off that access just near the location, that would be okay, depending on the cost that they're willing to incur to do that.
I'm just wondering if there'd be support for saying that it includes the beach immediately to the north of Kidogo, just in case there's a need. I mean, obviously, if you need to put equipment on the beach and then rent it out from the boardwalk, if you'd be acceptable to, I don't know how we'd define it, but
Not on the north. That's the whole point.
no, the beach immediately, only a little bit of beach immediately north of Kidogo as the place where you launch from or store equipment, because otherwise you've got to carry something.
If you want to make an amendment, you could, but I wouldn't support that amendment.
Councillor Jones, I was just going to suggest that this is a council decision, so there would be time between now and council meeting.
Well, I'm just trying to get a sense of what sort of activities there are, and if by supporting this amendment, which I generally do, whether we're actually prohibiting the sort of things people want to do. I don't know if you can comment on that, and I'll think about it before council. But
through the chair, it may be that this location is a location we look at for, I guess, lower impact activities or a lower volume of activity. There is already quite a bit of activity generated by the existing businesses there. We did look at the northern end of the beach due to that access onto the beach, but noting Councillor Pemberton's comments, it is quite a nice stretch of beach, and we certainly don't have to have a location at Bathers Beach. It's one of many that we're proposing in the policy.
I'll ask the CEO to comment, but would you like to use this microphone instead?
Just through the chair, I guess if we find that this policy is difficult to implement in this location, we can always come back and have a discussion with council about ways we may improve it.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment we're on? Yeah. No further discussion, then we'll put the amendment. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the item as a whole, noting that this will go on to the council for determination? No further discussion. All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. Yeah. I'll just move item 8. Yeah. And I'm only moving that separately because we have had 3 councillors indicate that they're very keen to be on this working group: Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Moughlin and Councillor Kamada. So I'd just like to note as a note going into the agenda that those three councillors have put their names forward to be on this committee, but this is going on to council for a determination, so it will be determined there. So I'll move that motion as it stands in the agenda, seconded by Councillor Jones. Yeah. Did you also wish to speak?
Well, I would suggest we simply make 3 vacancies with CEOs willing to. I don't see any problem with having 3 instead of 2, and if with a minor amendment to that effect.
Councillor Jones, you're moving a minor amendment that we make 3 positions available, seconded by Councillor Lorver. Is there any discussion? All those in favour? Discussion on the number of people?
That was just what I was going to propose.
Yep. Good. So if there's no further discussion on the number of people, we'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. So now there are 3 positions, and we'll put those 3 names forward, but still acknowledging that this is a decision of council and others may apply. Yeah. So with those 3 names put forward, all those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous. Thank you. Yep. So I'll now move item 12, seconded by Councillor Pemberton, but I also note we have an amendment by Councillor Pemberton. Would you like to speak at the moment on either the motion or the amendment? Noting that this is also a council decision, the amendment, just checking so that everybody's on the same page, and particularly me. This is putting in some words to clarify where the lighting is actually going. So that's the amendment. So was there a second to that amendment? No. Seconded by Councillor Lorver. Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you, and huge thanks to the director, because I was a bit horrified, disappointed that actually this project hadn't been included in the current budget, and I'd been telling people it had, and had been looking forward to it being happening. So I'm really glad that we've found the money to bring this project forward. And I guess I just wanted to make it really clear, because when I read this item originally, I was kind of imagining it was, well, particularly because of our conversation, I thought it was going to be down the end near the car park and so on. Whereas I wanted to make it explicitly clear so that we didn't end up with any confusion like I had with the budget decision. That what we're actually talking about is the lighting out in the front here, the forecourt and the streets surrounding that have been out of action for a while.
Thank you. So we have a mover and seconder for the amendment. Is there any further discussion? All those in favour of the amendment? That is unanimous. Thank you. So I'll now put. Oh, is there any more discussion on the motion, Councillor Jones?
Yeah, just a request, and just to ask the director that when doing the scope of works for the North Bowling Club building, if there could be some consideration going to trying to keep some of the outdoor areas free. I mean, it's a long time between when it closed and when it likely reopened. It could be March or April next year. So if there could be the opportunity for pop-up events or food vans or using the bowling greens, temporary toilets maybe that the club can provide, because the club will be incorporated to have members long before the building is ready. So to generate interest, it would be good if you could take that into consideration when doing the scope of works.
Thank you. Just to clarify, sorry, we have an officer's amended recommendation. That's the one we're dealing with. Yep. Yep. No? Yep. Yes, that's the one. I'm just clarifying it just to make sure. Yep. This one. This one. Yep. Okay. With Councillor Pemberton's amendment. Yep. Okay. Sorry, was Councillor Vucic, did you wish to speak on this item? No?
Yes, I do. On
the
motion.
budget amendments. Yep.
Budget
yes,
amendments.
on the motion. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I just find that these budget amendments, there's 19 of them. Probably this is the 20th. I have some real problems and reservations that we make so many budget amendments after we've done a budget and it's only about 3 months old. there's just a couple of, I just want you to bear with me. There's just 3 figures that I'd like to put forward in terms of where I'm getting at, in terms of why the initial budget and the budget amendments I have some difficulties with. In our budget that we had approved and it was balanced, we had $27.3 million discretionary spend. How we were going to fund the 27.3, 12.9 came from grants and contributions, 10.2 came from municipal funds, which is, I'm assuming, rates, and it had an item of 4.2 million transferred from reserves. And this is going back to that special July meeting that we got together to pass the budget. Now, I don't have any difficulties with the first 2 items, the grants and the rates to fund the discretionary spend. But when you check the July reserve, the monthly July financial statements, it's a 0. In August, it was $13,806, which suggests to me that the 4.2 actually was already spent, and it was spent in FY 2021. And this is what happens when we don't actually practice accrual accounting, which actually deals with expenses in the period that they occurred. And it also is problematic when we don't do monthly cash inflows and monthly cash outflows, which would give us much more greater transparency in the budget amendments, or at least we know what money's coming in and what money's going out. And then what happens, we wait for 12 months and we wait for the annual audit to make all of the adjustments, which gives us to some degree, in retrospect, after 12 months, some clarity of where the spend has gone and if there are any particular issues with it. I mean, let's, if we have a look at the $5 million for the architectural services, even that was a mystery to the auditors. So when I asked the question, that is the 22-23 budget balanced, and is it predicated on the sale of Quarry Street, I haven't seen anything that suggests that it's not. Which then you have a look at the $4.9 million that we're short, and we basically, one of the reasons why I voted for the budget was the South Beach toilets. So we look at the South Beach toilets, for example, it's a 3-year project, and it could well blow out to 5 years. So it comes back to a confidence in terms of how we do our projections. So I guess my question this evening is there a possibility of us doing monthly cash inflow and cash outflow reporting every month? Could we divert some resources in that direction and perhaps do less of the word reporting, because often numbers don't need 5-page summary on it. That we can have a bit more clarity as we go through with monitoring our finances, because it doesn't give us a true factor every month. It really doesn't.
Through the chair, we currently undertake our monthly financial reporting in line with the requirements of the Act and the resources we have on hand.
That's a great comfort.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bucik. Councillor Lauder?
Yeah, I just wanted to just make a quick comment about it's part 2 of this area here, and beginning on page 103, how exciting it is to see all these establishments that are going to be coming through, and that the staff and the team here at the City of Fremantle is going to be growing and doing things like fixing footpaths and taking care of our parks and all the wonderful things that you guys have all been flat out doing, and hopefully this will provide some help so it's not quite so much work for the folks that are here now and provide some relief. So I'm really excited to see all this stuff happening.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item? I likewise agree that we intended that this budget would get us back to the suburbs with works, and this is exactly what it's doing, so it's great. So if no further discussion, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Vucic is against, and that is carried. We now move to motions of which notice has been given. There is a notice by Councillor Pemberton. I'll pass it over to Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Pemberton has moved her motion, seconded by Councillor Jones. Is there any discussion? Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you. I wanted to bring this primarily because in 2017 we'd adopted an energy plan that was quite comprehensive and ambitious and sort of mapped out a path for how we were going to switch to 100% renewable energy by 2025, which is a commitment that this council has already made through the adoption of that energy plan. Firstly, in that, it did actually say that there would be annual reporting on that, and I guess in some ways it's picked up on the annual reports that come from the One Planet strategy and so on when that gets done. But I felt like that plan and strategy had kind of not been prioritised, not necessarily front of mind when we're making some of the related decisions and so on. So I guess I just wanted to do a refresh and a reboot on that to make sure that we are trying to achieve the objectives that were set out in that plan. Further to that, I wanted to propose that we look at switching to electrify everything, all the council operations and so on, because obviously, particularly if we're also running on renewable energy, then that means that our carbon footprint is really low and we're closer to reaching that carbon neutral status that we have. And I guess also just recognising that gas in particular is a fossil fuel. At the moment, this state is embarking on some major gas expansions that are going to create a lot of more emissions that are going to be deeply concerning. And this council has adopted the climate emergency position. And so it is really around just saying we don't want to purchase this gas that they are going, that we don't need to use it. There are other alternatives. And the motion itself is around asking officers to kind of have a look at where we're at and how far we've come. And I do commend the staff and this council for signing up to the WALGA power purchase agreement that will go a long way towards helping us actually achieve that 100% renewable energy plan, but doing a bit of an audit across the rest of the operations to see how we can extract ourselves from commitment to fossil fuels across the organisation. And I thank the director for helping me with this and being willing to take it on in what he has said is a reasonable time frame. So originally I had it as February, but happy to give a little bit more time to make sure that it can be done in a reasonable kind of way and also a thorough way. And looking at how we can also support or encourage our community to do the same.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I'll just make a comment that I do support this going onto council. I mean, in a way, this report is 5 years old. It would be really good to have a look at how it relates to where things are at now. I think a lot of things have changed over that 5-year period, and there may be other things that will be important for us to pick up on the way through as well. So, I think it will be a really good time to have a critical look at just what this report does say. I did go back and have a look through it just the other day, and I do feel that things have changed in that 5 years. So, and I think there are some other things that might be worth us considering as priorities in our organisation as well. So I might do some work on that and have a chat with you over the next 2 weeks. But for the interim, I'm very happy to support this. Councillor Kamada.
Thank you, Councillor Archibald. Look, I'm glad there's a lot of time given to the officers to do this, because I've certainly got a lot of questions myself as to how this would work, and it's not for now. So yeah, I'd be keen to see that we're involved and we have IEMs and so forth where we're brought along with this, and I'll support it. But yeah, I'm really keen to find out the nuts and bolts of it. So thanks.
Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I just make a comment. Seeing this in the agenda prompted me to contact the officers about the contracts being let for the bowling club, because I think to try and follow the principles of putting in as much as possible that's electrical rather than gas. I don't know if you remember from the meetings, but one of the supporters of the bowling club is a solar contractor who wants to look at making it a solar hub for the area, and have people buy shares in it. So I know that's a very long-term goal, but it did make me think that, I mean, I'm not sure how they do the barbecues. I mean, never had a lot of joy with electric barbecues, but whilst refurbishing the premises, I did ask the officers just to take that into account, that to not install new gas equipment where it's not absolutely essential, and not, think to the future about how we might use alternatives to those sorts of things. So I was prompted, and thank Councillor Pemberton for putting that, and that's what prompted me to raise that.
Thank you. Councillor Bucci?
Yes, I'm going to go along with this and see what happens. Yeah, not sure how it's going to work out, but I'm happy to go along.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Lorver?
I might as well say something everyone else has. I think this is the direction that we all want to be going, is in the carbon neutral as much as we can. And in order to achieve that, we have to first know where we're at and what things can be done to get us there. So this is a great first step in that regard. And yeah, I fully support this.
Great. Another unanimous decision coming up. All those in favour, if there's no further discussion, that is unanimous. Thank you. There is no urgent business, I believe. No. No late items, no confidential business. Therefore, I declare the meeting closed, and thank you, everybody.